All athletes are affected by Figueroa's framework, as it defines our enablers as well as barriers. Touch football is not traditionally a popular sport of choice in Australia, especially for males. Predominantly a female sport, the majority of local schools only have a female team. While my participation in touch football has been influenced by factors within the individual level as well as the interpersonal level, these influences will be further evaluated, including pre-recorded interviews. When analysing, it became obvious that the dominant factor influencing my low level of participation in touch football is that none of my mates partake in it. Access and equity issues should be studied if a higher level of male participation in a sport is desired, so this will be addressed in my investigation. Through analysis, it is clear that factors within the individual level of Figueroa's framework have had a large impact on my participation in touch football. As individuals, we possess beliefs and values that affect our own participation in sport and physical activity. These beliefs and values will govern our behaviour and are a product of our upbringing and experience with the sport. Being an athletic person, I have always been involved in typical male sports, such as rugby union. As I have played rugby since my early childhood, touch football has always been a warm-up drill during training, as opposed to a competitive sport. Despite being confident and knowing that I am competent in touch football, I have never felt motivated to participate outside of the HPE program. As touch football, as school sport is limited to girls in our school, I have bought into the common gender stereotype that it is a girls' sport, and because of this I have always been more inclined to take part in more physical, male-dominated contact sports.
So, do you think I've always been more inclined to play rough, physical activity sports as opposed to sports with no contact?
Well, since you were a young lad, you always preferred the rough and tumble and the physical, aggressive physical contact in sports and games. And even when we used to toss the ball around in the backyard, would always rapidly break down into a tackling and wrestling physical game. So yes, I do.
I am an extrovert and work well with team cohesion, so I have always sought team sports, and as I have a high self-esteem, this has had zero effect on my participation in touch football. When evaluating my personal view of touch football, I have reached the conclusion that it has been highly influenced by my peers, as well as by my parents. My participation in touch football has been heavily affected by factors within the interpersonal level of Figueroa's framework, so I believe that my lack of involvement in this sport has been predominantly influenced by the fact that none of my mates participate or encourage participation in this sport. Touch football is commonly thought of as a girls' sport by teenage males. It is not therefore a popular choice of exercise for this gender.
So, Lewis, do you play touch?
No, not at all.
Why is that?
Oh, it's just not a manly sport. There's just no contact. It's just for girls. It's just not fun.
Fair enough. So, Koda, do you play touch?
No.
Why is that?
None of my mates played it, so never really considered it as a sport to play.
Fair enough.
Due to these clear social norms, it is no surprise that I have not felt inclined to partake in touch football, and as none of my friends choose this sport, this leads me to believe that this may be the reason and leads our opinion of this sport. This lack of common interest links to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as touch football does not fulfill my needs involving love and belonging. As well as the influence that I have had from my peers, my upbringing has also had a large effect on my lack of participation. Fathers tend to promote gender stereotype behaviour, which can support boys' sports participation. As Chang suggests, children are most influenced on the type of sports they play by their father. Therefore, I have interviewed my dad on his thoughts of why I do not choose to play touch football as opposed to the sports I have chosen to play.
So, why do you think I don't play touch football as opposed to some of the sports that I do play?
I think you've always seen it as a practice or a warm-up to the real game. The real game being a game that has much more physical and aggressive activity involved. I think you've only ever seen touch football as a training platform for ball skills. So it's not the real game. Rugby, physical contact is the real game. Touch football, I think you've always only ever seen it as just a fun thing to do. None of your mates have really been engaged with it, and they've always been more focused on the football, the rugby, the AFL, those physical contact sports.
This clearly demonstrates influences on me involving the interpersonal level of Figueroa's framework that have led to my lack of involvement in the game of touch football, and the fact that this sport has never been desirable for me to play. Based on this analysis and therefore findings, it has become apparent that there have been in place large barriers for me to play touch football. One of these barriers is that I have always considered this game to be more of a training exercise as opposed to a real sport. This idea was reinforced by my conversations with my peers as well as my participation in rougher boy sports. Although I believe that due to my background of playing rugby as well as my physical makeup, I am in fact advantaged to have the opportunity to play touch football compared to many of my peers. Moving forward in the sport, my recommendation for a higher level of male participation in the sport would be to join a club or social league and convince friends to join me to fulfill my need to the social aspect of team sports. Due to the huge influencing factors of my upbringing and peer group perspectives, I can now evaluate that this has been affecting my opinion that touch football is not one of my preferred sports, despite being physically suited for the sport and enjoying the social contact.